5 years ago, I started my own fitness journey. And at the time, I was living in a 95 square foot room where the dishes were literally watching me from the sink while I was procrastinating on the bed. And I couldn't figure out why it felt impossible for me to get in shape, build my physique, or more importantly, create a healthier lifestyle that would make me proud of on a daily basis. But my life was filled with cheap dopamine, social media, video games, parties, sugar, and procrastination. And I was motivated like crazy for 3 days, and then I'd stop. I would set myself too many fitness goals, and I would heavily compare myself on social media. And during the first year of training, I just ended up feeling more overwhelmed and unmotivated than ever. And I thought that people with six packs and visible muscles that were just built different, they had something that I didn't have. And I ended up resigning myself from working out and eating clean. The big mistake that I made was thinking that I needed to redesign my life from scratch. Only then would I be able to stick to my healthy habits and reach my dream physique. But it doesn't work like that. And my need for instant gratification ruined all my attempts to get back on track. That's when I realized that this is what you should address first. Nothing's happening if you don't take care of that precise problem. More than that, there's a fix that has been known for millennia, and that is called self-discipline. And I'm going to help you build that trait step by step in this video. Now, the enemy is clear. It's instant gratification. It's the need for immediate satisfaction despite your long-term goals. It's saying yes to the temptation and the distractions. And this tendency causes three main problems. One, it prevents you from reaching your goals directly. Two, it reinforces the want and need for future immediate gratification. And last, it induces a loop of negative emotions. Now, instant gratification takes different forms for different people, and the problem is that it knows your weaknesses. It's the sweet tooth when you're on a diet, it's the snoozing when you need to exercise before work in the morning, and it's the impulsive clothing purchase when you're watching your finances. I thought that since the cheap dopamine release wasn't immediately destructive, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with snoozing for 15 minutes in the morning when you wake up groggy, and it cannot be that bad. But I was wrong. It is that bad. Those little tiny habits were exactly what prevented me from sticking to my diet and exercise routine. All those tiny negative actions, the scrolling, not doing the dishes, not prepping the meals, not folding the clothes, the constant distractions, and this kind of perpetual need for stimulation, these were the things that were negatively compounding against me. All these habits are distractions. They're pulling you from your life and causing a fundamental problem, because those tiny distractions are you trying to escape your life for a few seconds, minutes, and sometimes even hours, using this instant gratifications episode to make you feel better and to avoid responsibilities. And I understand that because I felt like I was in a cage, and Ryan Holiday says it perfectly. Freedom requires discipline, and discipline gives us freedom. I was scrolling to avoid doing the dishes. I was snoozing to avoid getting up and going to the gym, and I was watching Netflix to avoid schoolwork. And you can easily convince yourself that, as long as you're not directly engaging in destructive escapes, like, I don't know, smoking crack, you can keep on telling yourself that you'll be just fine and that it won't jeopardize your efforts. Except it does. Those little habits are the precise reason why you're not in shape and why you're not leading a healthy lifestyle yet. And these, you need to be careful because they're insidious and they prime your subconscious for more. If you're overweight and struggling with nutrition, you're probably not eating McDonald's every day, but you may be snacking here and there, which ultimately prevents you from losing the fat. Nutrition is in the details. Some foods are more caloric than others. And if you're not careful, a handful of nuts can be the reason why you're not shedding the fat. Snoozing in the morning cuts 15 minutes. Then it takes 15 more minutes to get out of bed. And because you went to bed an hour late, it takes you 30 minutes and 2 cups of coffee to get your brain to work. Add it up and you lost an hour, which would have been enough time for you to get a 30-minute run or workout in. The devil is in the detail. And by choosing those little escapes, you are directly preventing yourself from reaching your fitness goals. Every time that you say yes to the need for immediate pleasure, your brain rewards that activity. The emotional part of your brain that sends those signals is very primitive, and it doesn't distinguish between what's good for you and what's bad for you in the long term. It will choose the short term over the long term every time, because this part of your brain just wants to feel relief and experience pleasure in the moment. It's the most influenced by the neurotransmitter dopamine. Dopamine itself is essential. You don't want to get rid of it, because without it, you'd pretty much be a vegetable laying on the couch waiting for your own death. Because dopamine is a mobilizer. It pushes you to act and it triggers motivation. The problem with your dopaminergic system is that it wasn't designed for so much accessibility. It was designed to keep you alive, to push you towards looking for food, safety, and mating opportunities. Nowadays, this same survival system is used to scroll endlessly on Instagram. That's the problem. Now, something I learned from Dr. Huberman, the most important thing to understand is that when there isn't pleasure, there is usually pain associated. Every time that you feel a dopamine peak and engage in a behavior, you'll move towards the bottom of the slope, and it will inevitably trigger some sort of unease, discomfort, or even pain. You probably know this feeling. The best example is food craving. You really want to eat that particular food, like pasta, for example. And after work, you go to the store and buy ready-to-eat pasta. In your mind and the projections that you have made of the pasta, this will be the most pleasurable activity and you cannot wait to go home and eat it. But when you actually do, it doesn't feel quite as good. After the second plate, it's not even pleasurable at all, and you just feel bloated, frustrated, and guilty. There is regret because the thing that was supposed to bring you pleasure and comfort brought shame and guilt. And that's the dark emotion loop of instant gratification. Now it's just worse because you gave your brain the green light for pasta when you had the craving, and it just left you feeling unsatisfied and vacant. You're just experiencing the pain associated with a high peak in dopamine, which is why you feel that overwhelming negative feeling. More than that, after the dopamine episode, your thinking brain will take back the control. And that's when you start to blame yourself and cultivate negative thoughts about what just happened. That's like a dramatic example, right? But I think it helps understanding the full picture. And it doesn't always get that bad, but when it does happen on a micro scale, a lot of time during the day, and therefore adds up to a lot of small episodes filled with negative emotions, it's a lot. And you must be worried to the fact that every time you engage in one of those instant gratifications episodes, you're actively participating in allowing this reaction to be rewarded and to grow. This is precisely why tiny negative habits can truly deteriorate your quality of life, and over time, if cultivated, destroy your chances of reaching your fitness goals. And if you do feel shame and guilt regarding some of your habits, listen to what these emotions are trying to tell you. Don't judge yourself or beat yourself up for what happened, but it's important that you listen, because at the end of the day, these are just powerful signals that are trying to send you a message. Now, the good news is that you're in control of your actions. These impulses for immediate pleasure can be rebalanced. If procrastination, video games, tasty foods, and other types of distractions feel like they have too much power over your decisions, what you want to build is self-discipline, and we'll deconstruct it step by step in a second. Because if the ultimate outcome is to get in shape and you aren't there yet, it surely means that there are many little counterproductive behaviors preventing you from reaching your goal. Now, these can either be things that you shouldn't do, like snack, scroll, or things that you should do but don't. Go to the gym, meal prep, count your calories. Self-discipline is basically using your willpower to do the exact opposite of what these impulses want you to do. It's saying no when you know that these little habits can endanger your long-term goals, while also enabling you to say yes to behaviors that will lead you to those same long-term goals. This is why it's so effective. It's the most important skill you can acquire to reach your fitness goals sustainably. That's why the whole curriculum of my cohort is based on acquiring that skill. Because if you gain sufficient self-discipline and the necessary knowledge about exercise and nutrition, you will be in total control of your physique, weight management, and healthy habits. Check the link in the description. Now, how to build self-discipline. Self-discipline leverages the thinking part of your brain that's capable of making reasonable and conscious choices. It gives you control of your actions if you know how to use it. But to harness this power, you will need to mobilize your willpower. And I talk about willpower often, and I even made a whole video about this topic. Again, link in the description. Now, quick reminder, willpower is the conscious part of self-discipline. It's using your brain to say no to the immediate pleasure because you know it doesn't serve your long-term goal. The problem is that you only have so much willpower, and every aspect of your life draws from the same reserve. Your work, relationships, and fitness, they all rely on this single source of mental energy. And willpower is great, but it won't save you every time because it's a conscious effort that demands a lot of energy. Now, the purpose of building self-discipline is to make the right choice your usual way of acting. And if you truly acquire self-discipline, saying no to the cravings, immediate pleasure, and impulses will become normal, and it will almost demand nothing of you. This will allow you to work towards your long-term fitness goals without constant setbacks, freeing your daily life from shame and guilt. And trust me, this is within reach if you're willing to learn how to do it. And the first part to all of it is to fix your sleep, because your willpower is reset when you sleep. It's actually the only time when your brain and body can recover. And I'm not even talking about muscle recovery, I'm just talking about mental restoration. And if you're trying to lose weight, get in shape, or just stop falling for cheap dopamine, the most important thing that you can do is to start with going to bed at designated times and wake up roughly at the same time every day within a 15-20 minute range. Sleep consistency ensures that you have all the willpower you can get, and since you haven't built a strong enough self-discipline reserve, you will need all of your willpower. The second thing is to make your environment trigger free. Your willpower gets depleted throughout the day. And if you have 8 hours of work, 2 hours of transportation, all of that drains your mental energy. This is why home must be a secure place for you, free of the triggers that will test your willpower after a long day. If you tend to eat a lot of dessert, don't keep a cheesecake in your fridge. If you watch TV too much before going to bed and you sleep at 2 a.m., don't have a TV in your room. The outside environment is already full of temptations, distractions, and ads showing you attractive bodies, savory food, and bubbly soft drinks all day. Your home should be coherent with your long-term goals, especially because you'll inevitably be willpower depleted at some point during the evenings. Third one is to reduce the jumps in dopamine. Craving for social media, food, and video games are intense because you've been reinforcing them for a long time. That's just how dopamine works. If you satisfy the desire, it will require more next time. The emotional brain is binary. If there isn't pleasure, there is pain that wants to be alleviated. For weight management, this pain will be hunger. For procrastination, it's going to be the boredom felt in the absence of stimulation. To reduce the importance of the pain, you need to build some tolerance to it. Expose yourself to the temporary discomfort you feel when you don't gratify yourself instantly. Learning how to sit through the discomfort will give you the edge over the behavior you're trying to diminish. 4 is to use prevention techniques. A powerful technique is called implementation intention, and it's very simple to put in place. It goes like this. If X happens, then I will do Y. Condition yourself to prevent falling into the instant gratification trap. This is crucial when your willpower depleted. And with repetition, this method acts as an automatic mental barrier. For example, if I'm hungry between meals, I will simply wait until the next meal to eat. And respecting your intention helps your brain code that this is usual, costing you far less willpower over time. Another technique is the cool down technique. It's basically getting away from a warm trigger and putting you in a bubble, into a stimulation-free space to be able to make a conscious decision without being directly exposed to the source of the craving. For instance, if you're a smoker and you're trying to quit, every time that you see people smoking, you will start craving a cigarette. Now, when that happens, you find a quiet space to distance yourself from the trigger and make a conscious decision to favor your long-term health over the quick pleasure of dopamine. And the last thing is to set one goal and stick to it. I always recommend going to the gym because to me, this is the best way to build self-discipline. And that's why I've written Step 1, my ebook, which you can access for free. Again, link in the description. Check the description, it's really helpful. Whatever works for you, the magic is just in self-imposed consistency. Show yourself that you're capable of setting a goal and sticking to it. Consider your goal as a promise that you're making to yourself. And if your goal is to get in shape to improve your health and the quality of your life, then it's a promise you must hold yourself accountable for. And if you're watching this, you probably already know exactly what goal you want to achieve. In that case, you need an objective way to monitor it, because your goal doesn't count if it only exists in your mind. And to monitor it, this can be as simple as using a note in your phone to log your workouts, or a spreadsheet to track your physical exercise and performance. But if you have one thing to remember about all of this, it's the fact that self-discipline is the skill that will save you from instant gratification and help you reach your long-term fitness goals. So anyway, I hope this helps. Trust the process.